So hi everybody, we are again going to see, so this is not part 1.3 that we are continuing. I'm just giving you all a small glimpse into what our part 1.3 contain so that there is some continuation and we can continue with part 1.4 in the next. Okay, so part 1.3 we dealt with vestigial organs, paleontological evidence and carbon dating. These are all evidences of evolution that show how changes take place in organism from one generation to the other with over a long period of time. So these are gradual changes, and how these changes show us that all of us came from a single organism, or all of us were unicellular organisms first, and then we went on to become multicellular organisms and developed our own species. Okay, so let me go through it fast. What all did we finish? In vestigial organ, we dealt with some organs which were useful to us when at one point of time but have become useless over a period of time. Those are called as vestigial organs, and how are they useful in other organisms. Then we also dealt with paleontological evidence that told us how study of fossils help us to understand the theory of evolution. As you've seen that it ends by saying that all the vertebrates came from invertebrates. Okay, then we saw the three eras, that is the Cenozoic era, Mesozoic era, and Paleozoic era. Okay, how the invertebrates how the invertebrates developed into vertebrates, or how the vertebrates came from invertebrates. That was for 1.3. Now we will go on to 1.4, where we will see some more evidences of evolution, and then we will summarize it in the last part of this chapter. So we continue with the detailed explanation and solution for science to chapter 1, heredity and evolution, part 1.4. Okay, we're nearing the end of the chapter, but it gets all the more interesting. Okay, so we're going to see some more, that is connecting links and embryological evidence. These two are again going to be the evidences of evolution that tell us that man has evolved over a period of time. Okay, let's see. Let's start with connecting link. Okay, so this is connecting link. This is something that will give you a broader idea of what a connecting link is. Let me first explain you something. So connecting link, suppose this is your grandfather, this is you or your brother, and this is your dad. Okay, so you have some qualities of your granddad, you have some qualities of your dad, so that makes you a connecting link between two generations, the generation of your grandfather and the generation of your dad. So you have both the qualities. Okay, the connecting lead need not be somewhere in the middle. Okay, it can be anywhere, but it shows it links both the generations. Okay, that's what you can say, generations or different species also it can link. Okay, so necessarily you can say that this is point A, this is point B. Okay, in order to understand these two things, then there is something in the middle that has qualities similar to this one and this one also. So that is called as connecting link, some quality, some similarity that links these two. Okay, so let's see now. So we are going to be a connecting link is going to be somewhere over here. Okay, between annelida and arthropoda. So in the next slide we'll see what is an annelida and an arthropoda. See, this basic slide was inserted from your chapter 6, page 63. I took this part so that you understand that we are not going here and there, but all that we learn now is going to be linked to your next chapter. So this is also a connecting link kind of. Okay, so here, so in the animal kingdom, there you see, so there are so many phyla, means there are so different class of animals, but there is a link between each and every one. So we are going to study somebody who's a link between an annelida and an arthropoda. Similarly, you're going to see a link between the reptiles and the mammals. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this if you later wonder where the word annelida and arthropoda came from, you can go to page 63 and read more about it. You don't need to go on the internet. We'll stick to our syllabus and the contents that are there in our textbook. Yes, obviously if you want to read for something like, if you want to read for pleasure, then you can go on the internet and search, but there is a lot in your textbook. You can just refer to that. Okay, so let me continue. Let's see what are connecting links. So first we'll understand part by part what are connecting links, and then later we'll see how do they help us understand the theory of evolution. Okay, some plants and animals show some morphological characters by which they can be related to two different groups. Hence, they are called as connecting links. So, morphological characters, as we saw, it can be the structure of your eyes, nose, mouth, and their position. That is called as morphological characters. Okay, so some plants and animals, they show these morphological characters which are related to two groups, okay, in the subphylum, which are related to two groups in the subphylum. Such kind of organisms are considered or called as connecting links. Let's move ahead. Okay, let's see some examples. So example one, we have the peripatus. I think if you can see, look at the peripatus. It has a similar structure to an earthworm. You can see these bodies. You can see, as you can see the body like this. This is an earthworm. So the earthworm's body is like this spiral shape. Similarly, the peripatus also has something like that kind of a body. Okay, then they have this small legs. We'll see what are those called. Okay, and then there are some internal organs that are there in the arthropoda. One of example of the class arthropoda is a butterfly. Example from the class annelida is the earthworm. As I told you in the previous slide, it came from a page 63. So if you want to read a little more about them, you can go over there. Okay, so let's continue. So example one for connecting link is the peripatus. Peripatus is a connecting link between the annelida and arthropoda. How it is a connecting link? It shows some characteristics from annelida, that is a segmented body, as I told you. So you can see these parts over here. So segmented body like an annelida. Thin cuticle means the skin, epidermis, that is called as thin cuticle. Parapodia means these small leg kind of things are called as parapodia. So these also have, they're very tiny. It can be seen only if you look under the microscope. So that is parapodia, small for movement, you can say. Now, what do they have like arthropoda? They show trachea respiration, means the respiratory system is like the arthropoda and also their circulatory system. So this is the peripatus, which is a connecting link between the annelida and the arthropoda. Okay, so now you do annelida will not be an alien word for you. This is the class of worms, and arthropoda is a class of insects. Okay, let's see the next example, which is a connecting link next. Okay, so now this is the duckbill platypus. Let's see. So duckbill platypus is a link between the reptiles and mammals. Let's see what it has, what similarity. So duckbill platypus, it is a link between the reptiles because it lays eggs like the reptiles, but its relationship with the mammals is the presence of mammary glands and hair. Mammary glands, it feeds its own children, okay, and thick hair like the mammals. Mammals are organisms which live on land as well as on water. So peripatus shows those qualities. That is, it has presence of mammary glands and hair, and it lays eggs just like the reptiles. So duckbill platypus is a connecting link between these two class of organisms. Let's see. Now, lungfish performs respiration with lungs, irrespective of being a fish. So you all know how fishes breathe, but this kind of lungfish, okay, amphibians are the ones who respire out of water also. So they have lungs irrespective of being a fish. It performs respiration with lungs irrespective of being a fish. So that is your lungfish over here. Okay, let's move on to the next now. So we finished connecting links. So you understood what is a connecting link, and then you saw the three examples. If you know any other example, you can put it in the comment section. Next. Now, we are going to see something that gives us a little more evidence about evolution, that is embryological evidence. Now, these are taken for reference. You don't need to by heart it. It's going to come in your next chapter any which ways, but this is taken from outside and not your textbook. So, this I specifically downloaded to show you all how embryo is formed. What is an embryo? What do you understand? So, this is a male gamete, that is a male egg, and the female egg. They come together to form a zygote. Okay, over a period of time, zygote develops into a embryo. So this is an early stage of development of an organism. Okay, you have taken a human. So this is stage one, as they say. So during the stage one, be it a fish, okay, a salamander, or tortoise, or a chicken, or a pig, cow, rabbit, man. See their early stages of development. There is so much similarity. You can hardly make out one from the other. Okay, see the next stage now. Slight bit of difference, but still there is a similarity. And in the third stage, you see more differences and less similarities. So as they move from the first to the later stages, the similarities keep on reducing, okay, and the dissimilarity increases, okay. But by this, by the initial stages, that is in the early stage, because of their similarities, we all come to know that we have evolved from a same origin. We come from the same origin. So let's read. Comparative comparative study comparative study of embryonic development stages. This is embryonic development stages of various vertebrates. We've seen vertebrates here given in the picture show that all embryos show extreme similarities. This we saw in the initial stages, during the initial stages, and those similarities decrease gradually. We saw that these similarities keep on decreasing as the stage goes on further. Similarities in initial stages indicate common origin of all these animals. So as I told you, during the initial stages, there's a lot of similarities. Similarities keep on decreasing as we go to the further stages. But these similarities, the extreme similarities that are present in organisms in the initial stages, that indicate the common origin of all these organisms. So this much only in embryological evidence. Let's see the next part. So here we summarize what all we have studied. As I told you, evidences of evolution. So what did we study in evidences of evolution? You can remember this dog and this sheep over here. You can see the structure of the position of their eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ear. That is nothing but your morphological evidence. Why am I putting pictures? So that you can relate. Try to remember these pictures so that they help you define your particular uh, term. Anatomical evidence, remember the human hand, the foreleg of an ox, the whale, and the bat. Okay, their structure, the bone structure is very similar. Okay, vestigial organ, I just put this as the vestigial organ because I know one point of time we have evolved from apes. We had a tail which used to help us balance our body, but now it's no more there. So that's something very, very evident for me. So I have kept this picture for myself. Paleontological evidence. Paleontology, I just remember pale means faint, dull. So fossils are very dull to me, means they don't have very glorious colors. So whenever I hear the word paleontology, I get to pale fossils. So then I remember what my particular term is talking about. Okay. Vestigial, just remember vestigial as waste. So waste matlab something that is no use. Then you remember, okay, I had a tail, but no, there's a tailbone. Remember like that. These are just hints. This is how I remember, necessarily not. You might be remembering much better, but this is the way I like to remember things. Okay, some funny things. If you connect it with funny things, you'll remember. Connecting link, we have the peripatus connecting link. See, the body of the peripatus is only like a like a line or a segmented arrow. You can see small dots. Okay, so that's how I remember peripatus to be the connecting link. And last but not the least, embryological evidence. Embryo, nothing but here, this is embryological evidence. So if you have all the funny terms for this one, I think embryological term, one thing that you can stress your brain to remember. Or if you have something funny or you have made some funny connections, you can put it in the comment section and it will help your fellow friends to just learn it. So yes, we are done with evidences of evolution. In the next part, let's see what we'll be dealing with. So in part 1.5, we're going to deal with Lamarckism and Darwin's theory of natural selection. So hope you've all enjoyed this part of the chapter series, just as you would enjoy your favorite book with a hot cup of tea. So, ECOT, that is Everyone's Cup of Tea, will bring to you many more such chapter series along with detailed explanation and solution of the exercises that are there in your textbook. We wish to bring to you this and more at zero cost so that the hardest chapters become your cup of tea. So help us by clicking on this button. Get notified about our upcoming chapter series. Also, share it to help us define education through equality. Do message us any doubts that you have on our Instagram handle, Everyone's Cup of Tea, and we promise to answer them. Thank you and keep sipping. Bye.